Hey everyone, this is Addy with the Denoise podcast, and in today's quick video, we're going to explain what a LoRA is, and I'm going to take a super non-technical approach to try to describe this. So, here we go. All right, since I'm from LA, I'm going to use the metaphor of a Mexican restaurant to describe the entire thing. Now, take this picture here of a really busy, really successful Mexican restaurant, and this represents our image model. And just like an image model has complexity to it, there's training that goes into it, there's the neural network, there are the engineers that build it. In the same sense, this Mexican restaurant also has complexity to it. It has a grill top and chefs and cooks and, of course, logistics that go into it. Now, let's take this Mexican restaurant as a metaphor for an image model. This restaurant is really built to do one thing, which is to output food. And in this case, it's going to output Mexican food. And that is what an image model does. It's really built to output images. Now, just like an image model has its base ingredients, its core ingredients, if we will, in order to create images repeatedly, so too does this Mexican restaurant. It also has a stock fridge full of raw ingredients, and using those raw ingredients and the cook's knowledge and all of the techniques and the equipment, this Mexican restaurant can create outputs. The outputs in this case are tacos, burritos, enchiladas, chips, salsa. I'm getting hungry just looking at this. And just like a Mexican restaurant can create these things, an image model can create images. So far, if you're with me, let's get into the LoRA and what that idea is. Here comes world famous chef Roy Choi, who famously combined Korean techniques with Mexican ingredients in order to create something entirely new from what was essentially the same Mexican restaurant. So in this example, Roy is the LoRA. Now, you can introduce Roy into this Mexican restaurant, and because of his unique background, his skill set, and his training in fine dining, he was able to take essentially the same raw ingredients, but create slightly different outputs, very specific outputs that are catering to a different set of taste buds. So, for example, Roy is able to make bulgogi kimchi tacos from basically what the Mexican restaurant has to offer. And he's able to do this because he is the LoRA. He is the knowledge bringer that is slightly modifying things without changing the entire thing. Now, if we put the traditional base model output, which are, let's say, carne asada tacos made the traditional way on the left, then Roy's output is almost the same, but slightly different. In this case, the Korean fusion tacos, the bulgogi tacos. And Roy is not just good at making tacos, he can also use his skill set to make other types of outputs. In the case here, the difference between a traditional carne asada burrito and a bulgogi burrito. And again, Roy's influence affects all the different types of outputs this restaurant can create. And so this LoRA, when introduced to an image model, can impact pretty much everything across the board. Now, LoRA Roy can make all types of outputs from the same Mexican restaurant with the same kitchen and the same ingredients because Roy brought his unique knowledge and skill set to this restaurant. So now I have a table full of dishes that Roy made, which somewhat resemble the original Mexican dishes, but have a completely unique kick to it. Now, he is not just limited to this image model. You can actually build LoRAs inside of audio models too. So if we take this food truck, which is a much smaller kitchen and it's mobile, and we compare it to an audio model, which tends to be lit. Now imagine this food truck is an audio model. It still has a kitchen, but it's much smaller. It probably has a smaller fridge and so on. You can still introduce a LoRA into this audio model or this food truck, and Roy can still have a very unique output because of the knowledge he brings. And you can expand it to even a bigger concept like a video model. Now imagine this Michelin star fine dining restaurant is a video model. The kitchen is much bigger. There's way more ingredients. There's way more budget in general. And Roy can still bring his skill set and create something entirely new. So now that we have an idea of what a LoRA is, I want to clarify what a LoRA is not. So a LoRA is not an image model itself. So in this example, we wouldn't be building a brand new kitchen or building a brand new restaurant if we want a specific look and feel. LoRA is not also a kitchen remodel. And if we are in the metaphor of a full Mexican restaurant, then a full weight train would be to completely revamp the restaurant with new paint, new decor, new furniture, new stove, new fire suppression equipment. That is not what we're doing here. A LoRA is simply adding a unique knowledge, a unique set of skills to an existing model. In the case of this image here, Roy is working alongside the rest of the cooks in the kitchen. He's using the same ingredients and he's using the same stove, grill plate, and plates and so on. So why do you need a LoRA? Well, in the real world, it's actually quite useful. And let me show you a few use cases where it's pretty handy. The most obvious use of LoRA is to create consistent characters. In this example, you can take the likeness of a person, let's say a set of images, and train a LoRA, and then use that LoRA to influence the output from that image model and have that output be of that person every time, repeatedly and consistently. You can also apply the power of LoRA to objects. In this example here, I'm applying to a specific set of clothing. So if you want somebody to wear the same outfit over and over again, and it has to look the same in different angles and different lighting conditions and so on, then a LoRA is really good use for that. LoRA also applies to specific look and feel of an image. So in this example here, if I want to output a very dark palette, film noir type look every time, then I train a LoRA on those specific sets of images, and the output will tend to bias itself into this type of look and feel. And finally, you can even train LoRA to do things like detail enhancement. So you can give it a base image, and then the LoRA can actually go in and add wrinkles on the skin, details on the hair, and everything in between. So you can specifically train LoRA to do a very small task, but do it really, really well. Now I want to talk about the difference between a LoRA and reference images. In some image models, the only way to get customized outputs is to use LoRA. In other image models, the only way to get custom outputs is to use reference images. So a good example would be Nano Banana Pro, where it will take in multiple reference images and create a very specific thing. And in the case of WAN 2.2, it'll take in a LoRA to create a very specific output. This comes down to a model being open source or closed. Typically, open source models can have an attachment of a LoRA to them or multiple LoRAs, and it is easily modifiable. You can full weight train it. On the other hand, a closed model is something that is not typically LoRA trained. The only way to influence and impact the closed model is to throw in reference images or reference videos. A couple of examples of closed models are Nano Banana and Sora, and a couple of examples of open source models are Flux as well as WAN. Now, each have their very specific strengths and weaknesses. If I was to just generalize across the board, I would say that reference input is generally great for one-off or just a handful of generations, whereas building a LoRA into a model is going to set you up for pure automation and scale. So if you want to generate thousands and millions of images of that same look, you're better off using a LoRA with an open source model. But if you're looking for really high quality and just a handful of images, then Nano Banana Pro or something like that is perfectly fine. I hope this explanation of LoRA is helpful. Please let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and looking forward to the next one with you.